Welcome to week 8, the last week of the course. I would like to say that I enjoyed working with you very much, and I hope to have the opportunity to do so in the future. I wish all of you the best of luck. Millions of laid-off American factory workers were the first to realize that they were competing against job seekers around the globe with comparable skills but far smaller paychecks. But a similar fate also awaits workers who aspire to be high-skilled, high-paying jobs in engineering and technical fields unless this country learns to prepare them to compete for the challenging work that the new global economy requires. The American workforce has some of the weakest mathematical and problem-solving skills in the developed world. In a recent survey by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, a global policy organization, adults in the United States scored far below average and better than only 2 of 12 other developed comparison countries, Italy and Spain. Worse still, the United States is losing ground in worker training to countries in Europe and Asia, whose schools are not just superior to ours, but getting steadily better. The lessons from those high-performing countries can no longer be ignored by the United States if it hopes to remain competitive. Canada also has a more rigorous and selective teacher preparation system than the United States, but the most striking difference between the countries is how they pay for their schools. American school districts rely far too heavily on property taxes, which means districts in wealthy areas bring in more money than those in poor ones. State tax money to make up the gap usually falls far short of the need in districts where poverty and other challenges are greatest. Americans tend to see such inequalities as the natural order of things. Canadians do not. In recent decades, for example, 3 of Canada's largest and best performing provinces, Alberta, British Columbia, and Ontario, have each addressed the inequity issue by moving to province-level funding formulas. These formulas allow the provinces to determine how much money each district will receive based on each district's size and needs. The systems even out the tax base and help ensure that resources are distributed equitably, not clustered in wealthy districts. These were not boutique experiments. The Ontario system has more than 2 million public school students, more than in 45 American states and the District of Columbia. But the contrast to the American system could not be more clear. Ontario, for example, strives to eliminate or at least minimize the funding inequality that would otherwise exist between poor and wealthy districts. In most American states, however, the wealthiest, highest-spending districts spend about twice as much per pupil as the lowest-spending districts. In some states, including California, the ratio is more than 3 to 1. This has left 40% of American public school students in districts of concentrated student poverty. What's clear is that other countries have radically different education systems from what currently exists in the United States. The United States puts heavy emphasis on decentralization and delineation between public and private options, while most other countries have private or religious schools that can receive public funds and have nationally mandated exams, curricula, and teacher pay scales. For example, Germany, despite having a federalist system similar to the United States, has nationwide assessments. The Netherlands funds public and private schools using a single, nationally determined formula. This does not mean that having national exams is better or worse than not having them, but it is a clear signal that, unlike in other domains, the American education system is not one that other countries appear to use as a model. Common Core state standards are only going to work if principals give teachers time and space to collaborate and brainstorm on how to make them work. They need a boss who trusts them. Experiment with technology, work on individualized learning and customized learning, but it's one tool. We need to make sure it's worth the cost. It's easy to get dispirited in the United States debate over education, but when you see how much change is happening around the world, you realize that things don't have to stay the same. There is hope. I would like to ask you to reflect on the following two questions. What assumptions come into play when Americans compare U.S. students' academic achievements with students' achievements from other countries? And two, what insights do you have of American education from reading about the educational systems of these 5 countries? Thank you.